that land was a part of us. That land helped us be. That land was who we were and who we are.
The command of removal came unexpectedly upon most of us. There was a time that we noticed several overloaded wagons were passing our home, yet we did not grasp the meaning. Then one day, wagons stopped. We were to be taken away and leave our homes, never to return.
To get what they wanted, U.S. officials brokered treaties through any means available. Their tactics were so corrupt that the once trusted treaties became quickly known as bad paper.
There were people at these treaty negotiations who would do anything to get an agreement on the table. And so there was very routinely bribery, individual payments made to tribal leaders. Alcohol would be used to put people in an agreeable frame of mind, and even coercion to say to people, you must sign this agreement or else.
Every means of trickery and fraud was employed against Native nations. The United States would appoint a false leadership, people who had no right to speak for the tribe, and say, you're the leader of this tribe, sign this paper giving away all your land.
As the century progressed, the treaties became more and more lopsided, a far cry from the parallel paths of the Geswenta. Despite appeals from the Indian nations, the U.S. kept on its new trajectory, rationalizing its aggressive actions along the way.
All right.
They have neither the intelligence, the industry, moral habits, nor the desire of improvement.
All right. Shalom, y'all. Bashimi Shabrakata.
The tribes of Indians inhabiting this country were fierce savages.
All right. So let's get this started. Shalom, y'all. Bashimi Shabrakata. To all the brothers and sisters, this is the I.S.U.P.K. coming out of California. This is the Inconvenient Truth, I.S.U.P.K. California. And of course, today I'm here with Officer Malakma. We got Oscar War in the house, and also and Officer Kashar One in the house. Salakia. We got Officer Kashar One in the house. As always, we have the I.S.U.P.K. coming out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York City. And we're here to teach Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians their true identity, the history of where they come from, that they are of the lost tribes of Israel. We are the lost 10 tribes of the 12 tribes of Israel. And we're here to show the history behind it. We're here to bring our brothers back together. And most importantly, you're here to wake up our brothers and sisters that they can understand who they are and where they come from. Right. Today, we're going to teach in our class. We're going to teach the Mayan history. We're going to show you how the Mayans knew exactly who they were, how they knew they were of the 12 tribes, and how they knew the Bible before the conquest, before Columbus, before anybody came to the Americas. You know, the people of the Quiche people had already known who they were. You know what I mean? So before we go in, I want to thank everybody for joining. If you got any questions, just go ahead and post it up. We'll make sure to get to any questions, any doubts you may have, any comments. Go ahead and post it up, and we will get to them. Okay? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this this study. All right. You on, Malakma? You ready?
All right.
So first, let's go into the story of the Mayans, correct? And get a little bit of insight on who the Mayans were. For those people who are not familiar, which I know everybody is familiar with the Mayan culture. The Mayan culture, as always, has been one of the how could I say it? One of the forefronts of the civilizations of Latin America. They were one of the biggest in archaeology, one of the biggest in science, in what else? Help me out, guys. What else? Astronomy, right? Medicine. Man, I could go on.
hydroponics.
The hydroponics, absolutely.
Farming, what is it? Plumbing, for everything, man. Having a clean society, right? The Europeans had all their filth and everything in the streets, but the Mayas, right? The Aztecs, all the indigenous people knew how to be clean, and the Europeans knew nothing about cleanliness until they came in and encountered, our indigenous ancestors.
Absolutely. So we know that the Mayans were one of the cleanest, apart from the Mexican people, which, the Aztecs. We also practiced hygiene. We were always into the hygiene. We had one of the cleanest cities, Tenochtitlan, making sure that it was always clean, that it was always good. A little bit about the Mayan, you're talking about Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, parts of Yucatan Peninsula. This is the whole area which pretty much makes the Mayan Empire. Before there was borders, before there was El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, before any of that, there was, to begin with, the Mayan Empire. There was no separation of who was this and who was that. We were all one nation. Do I need to send you another invite, or you got it still up? Check to see if it's still there. And give us 1 second here. So we got all of these territories which now are separated by borders, but at one point there was no borders. At one point we were all one great nation. The Aztecs today, I had mentioned last night in one of my shows, today they are doing, if you're from Central America, you need to know that we have, at the stream, they got the Mayan train being made, which is going down Central America, and it's going up to Mexico. It's going up Central America all the way up to Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula. And as they're doing this excavation of this train, they're finding thousands of archaeological sites with cities and schools and towns and just everything that has to do with the Mayan civilization. So much that they have to stop the building of the train because the UNAM, the INAN, which are the universities of Mexico, which are in charge of archaeological sites, they have been putting a stop on it for the very purpose that they can't excavate in these sites because of the, how could I say, the importance of finding these relics, these cities, and all that's there. So today they find that the Mayans and the Aztecs at one point had communication, like they were one great big city, up and down, one great big city. You're talking about like from New York to LA, you're talking about one great big city that traded, lived together, warred against each other, if that's it, made trades and treaties upon each other, So it's one great big area, you know what I mean? So now they have, now we understand that the Mayan Empire and the Aztec Empire at one point were connected, physically connected, and of course, the gods and everything. And the way you know this is because the god of the Mayans was also, or the leader of the Mayans was also the leader of the Mexicans, of the Aztecs, of the Toltecs, which was in the Mayan, in the Quiche, Kukulkan, and in our language, in Nahuatl, he was known as Quetzalcoatl. So these are the two in the same person. Now, the misunderstanding is that a lot of people think that Quetzalcoatl is a feathered snake, a deity, a god, right, or some kind of presence, But in reality, he was just a man. In reality, he was just a leader. He was known as a Tlotani in their language, a Tlotani, a hero for the Mayan people. You know what I'm saying? He's the one who bring him forth, and I think we have something here on him. And before we go on, I want to show you this book that we're going to be reading out of. This is called the Nexus, Spanish language. If you were on my class last night in the Spanish class, of course you weren't because this is not a Spanish class, but this is a book. It's called The Link Between the Mayans and the Shemitic During the Pre-Columbian Times. The writer of this book is this man known as David Allen Deal. He's archaeologist, right? Of course, historian, of course. And what this man is bringing out here is the evidence that in these books that the Mayan people were of Shemitic, Shemitic bloodline.
Right.
We're also going to be looking at this book. It's called Discovery of Ancient America. A lot of people are familiar with this book here, Discovery of Ancient America. And it's also written by David Allen Deal, right? And what you're looking at in this book is that this man, I'm going to show you some of the pictures. He's been to a lot of places, excavation points in Arizona, in Nevada, right? In different areas in America where he has gone to excavate and found that a lot of his excavations and his archaeological, trying to get this right, okay. And his archaeological sites, what he's discovered, right, is, I'm gonna get this real quick, is this. He has found proof, the Grave Creek stones, that these were written in Hebrew, right? You can see Hebrew writing here, right? If you can see that, Hebrew writing. And this book is basically him going through this whole archaeological sites and evidence and findings, where he's finding all these artifacts, right? These artifacts have to do with ancient civilizations here in America, known as, of course, you know, the Hebrews, known today as, here we go, some of his writings. And he uses the Strong's Dictionary to find the meaning of the words in the Hebrew, in the English, and of course, in the language that's written. This language here, this writing here, is what is found in Arizona, in North Dakota, right? In, where else? Nevada, right? Different areas, even in California, they find these writings, which we can tell right away off the bat that it is Hebrew. And so he's translating the letters by using what? The Strong's Dictionary to translate these words that he's finding, or these letters, or these inscriptions, should I say, that he's finding where? On stones, right? And this is the mystery rock, right? Inscriptions. Slakia. Maybe I'll do better next time. But these inscriptions, right? Let me see that. Perfect. Now we can see it. These inscriptions that he's found, once again, across America. So as always, this man, and you can see upper right hand corner of the inscriptions, right? What he says. Anyways, I'll go into detail in a little bit more. So yeah, so now we know David Allen Deal, historian, archaeologist, you know, finding artifacts across America, and then breaking down what he sees as true Hebrew written by who? The Native American Indians. So he's done his research, he's done his work. I know a lot of people come against it, but who knows more than those that spend more time out there looking for these evidence. Not only is it in America, but you can go down to South America, and the Quechua people, which are Incas, right? They also find these same writings done in the Quechua people in South America. So you got people living in South America, you got people living in North America, so what we call, right? And then you got people living in Central America and living in Mexico, what we call Mexico today, you know, and you find the same writing by these type of hieroglyphics that they used to call hieroglyphics,
right.
But today we know they're not hieroglyphics. Today we know that what they really are is Hebrew, Shemitic, Hebrew language, right? Hebrew letters. Right. You know, the Grave Creek tablet is Hebrew writings. Okay, that's what we know. These are the Braxton tablet. Another one is a Hebrew writing. You can look and you will find out that all these are Paleo Hebrew. That's why they couldn't understand them before, because what they were searching for when they said Jewish writing, they were looking for the Assyrian. What is that? The Assyrian Hebrew, right?
Right.
The Assyrian Hebrew, which is the Jewish man's language. but that's not the original
Right.
Hebrew language. The Luna stones and all these other sites that they found, the Dead Sea Scroll fragments, all have the same type of writing. So they find out that this writing is actually the original writing that we used to find in the Bible when it comes to ancient Hebrew writings. So once again, we're going to read some books. We're going to go into discovery of America. As you see now, this man went out into New Mexico, the other areas, and found that the Hebrew writing is found across America, Latin America, Central America, and South America. So we know that they're everywhere. And before the Spaniard came and colonized our people already knew that the Bible existed. So no, we did not learn about the Bible through the Spaniard. That's pretty much what we're getting at. A lot of people think, well, Hispanic people learned about the Bible through the colonization or the invasion of Spain and into America, into the Latin America, and then we became Christianized or Catholics, and then we were indoctrinated with the Bible. Isn't that what a lot of people say?
Right,
oh, that's the white man's book. Right? That's the story we always hear. That's the white man's book.
Like if I
Go ahead.
Sure, I like saying this when people say that, but like, man, you really think the oppressor is that creative to write the stories in the Bible? Just read the Bible, read the stories in there. Man, you don't credit him with all being able to write that when you know he's the true culture bandit. He's the true culture vulture. Nothing from this oppressor is original. They've stolen every aspect of other cultures from around the world and used it for their own. They're not original. They've stolen everything, man. So that should give you an idea that the Bible, they stole that too. And it's not their book.
Gone, absolutely. So you got to understand that first you got to know that the Europeans, right, first came in contact with the Mayans about the 1500s.
Right.
That's when Columbus made his second voyage, and his second voyage came into where? Into Central America. He was there with his fourth voyage, Salakia. His fourth voyage came into the Americas. Christopher Columbus, when his brother Bartholomew de las Casas, right, encountered, the canoe. If you read the story, we won't go into it, but following that, expeditions came in from 1517 to 1519. They started coming into the Yucatan coast, and the Yucatan coast just so happens to be Mayan territory.
Right.
You go into Yucatan, it's Mayan territory. So you got these Spaniards or these Europeans coming into the Yucatan Peninsula, and they're discovering. They did not bring the Bible with them. Well, they bring some kind of religion with them, but our people, the Mayan people, already knew about the Bible beforehand. Before the invasion, before the conquest, before you got these Spaniards and these Europeans coming and bringing religion, we already had a religion. In reality, what they did was bring a false religion.
Right.
So our people knew about the real religion. What they did was bring a false religion.
Right.
And let me tell you something. The reason that happened is because the Lord punished us, that we would worship other gods, and that we would worship stone and wood, and that we would worship gods that we never knew, and idols that we never knew, and that our fathers didn't know. And the reason that we now worship the Virgin Mary and the white Jesus is because it's a punishment upon us, Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. That's why we're worshiping that. So in reality, it had to come to pass. Us worshiping these idols had to be because the Lord decreed it. He said that's a punishment on us. And so if he brings that on us, so what can we do? We cannot retract that. We cannot do nothing about that. The Bible is going as planned. It's going as the way it should. The Lord is sending these punishments, and that's exactly what's happening with us. We're picking up the punishments. We're going through everything. All the maldiciones, that's what we call it in Spanish. All the punishments that he said he was going to bring upon us, that is what we're eating up today. That is what we're going through. That is what Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans are facing now. But, there's also an end to this if we remember, when we remember who we are, and we call on the Lord's name again, right, by his name, and we keep the law, statutes, and commandments, then once again that punishment will be lifted. He'll come back to us, and we will be a nation once again.
Right.
And that's the time we live in today. But let's go into the Mayan history and find out what we're talking about the Mayans. So let's go into Kukulkan, which is known as Quetzalcoatl, because one of the problems is a lot of people think Quetzalcoatl is a deity, a god, some kind of a stone, or some kind of I don't know, made up type of god. But let's find out who he really is. Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan are the same person, same people. Kukulkan was known to them by the Mayans. Quetzalcoatl was known by the Aztecs. So let's read a little bit. Malakma's going to read into our book, our first book, The Nexus. Go ahead.
Conquest. This is a chapter, Kukulkan, hero of the Mayan histories. Within the Mayan histories, it is clear that there were two distinct individuals called Kukulkan. One, the first, was a Maya forefather, actually an Israelite, who led the ancestors on the other side of the sea for a period of 40 years.
So read that one more time a little slower so they can understand what it is that this this historian found.
Within the Mayan histories, it is clear that there were two distinct individuals called Kukulkan. One, the first, was a Maya forefather, in parentheses, actually an Israelite, who led the ancestors on the other side of the sea for a period of 40 years.
Okay, so the Mayans knew about a man who led them across the sea, of course, out of captivity, across the sea for 40 years. So they know this man, this is Moses they're talking about.
Right.
Because who else led them across the sea and away from captivity but Kukulkan? So go on and read.
Kukulkan. During that period, they crossed the sea dry-shod and wandered in a general northeasterly direction towards Dulan, which in Hebrew means eminence. This Kukulkan of necessity must have been Moses. Has Moses ever been called Kukulkan in the scripture of the Israelites? Yes, as we shall demonstrate. The second Kukulkan was a Tolteca, Norse king of the 3rd century AD, whose name was Wotan, both in Chiapas and in Tuo, Scandinavia. Wotan is well known in the Norse sagas. The Ynglinga saga claims that Wotan wandered the world for 10 years during a banishment. He returned to Tuo and once more became Wotan, man god of the Norse. It is our contention that he was meanwhile Wotan Kukulkan the Tolteca, man god of the Maya. Mayanologists have confused and blended these stories with those of the later Tolteca kings and have restricted them all to Guatemala. As might be expected, a misunderstanding of the origins of the ancient Maya histories has been created by modern Mayanologists. This was because of blind prejudice against biblical history. The original stories that the Popol Vuh parrots, and in fact against the Mayan people themselves, 1,200 years of myth-making has occurred between Kukulkan, two Wotan called Quetzalcoatl, and the conquistador Hernando Cortés, a rival, thought by the indigenes to be Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan returning. 3,000 years transpired between Cortés's arrival in Mexico and Kukulkan.
Right. So okay. So let me go into something real quick, for we can not get lost in the translation of what we're reading, because what we're reading here is about a man, right, by the name of Kukulkan. This man is a man who freed his people. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a story real quick of Kukulkan. Okay, so let me change this page real quick and get them ready for this this story. I want you to read this one because we're going to find out Kukulkan right here. Okay, so we're going to read, and you got a couple of them here, right, to read here. Right here. So let's read about the about who what Kukulkan did, because right now we know that Kukulkan was a man who bring his people from where? Across the sea, correct?
Right.
So we're going to read about the story of bringing his people from across the sea. This is the story found in a book known as the Popol Vuh. So let me just show you a real quick picture of this book known as the Popol Vuh. If you got it, Kasharwan, go ahead and put that up too, right? Popol. I want everybody to see this book. Last night in my class in Spanish, I recommended, get this book. Check out this book. Read it for yourself, that you might understand a little bit of the Mayan history. Oh, yeah. Come on. Where is this at? Oh, here we go. So this is what the book is. The Popol Vuh. It's called the Sacred Book of the Maya. Funny that it's called sacred, right?
Right.
El libro sagrado, a sacred book or separate book of the Mayan people. You know what I mean? So if you read this book, you understand that this book is what's known for the Mayans as an important book. And I'm going to read you a little bit about the book of the Popol Vuh. It's written in the language Quiche. This is it translated into the Spanish, right? This was translated in the 1800s, I believe 1800s, 1700s. It was translated. But let me go into who's monitoring the site. Ashko, are you monitor the sites for any questions or anything that might come up? Because I don't have it on and I'm using my book. So
Or the YouTube?
yeah, we're on Facebook. Kazakh Yad is you can monitor there. Okay. So let me read you a little bit of the Popol Vuh. Any questions, you can ask them. It goes like this. The Popol Vuh, also known as Popol Vuh, right? Because that's, remember, we're speaking in the Hebrew or Quiche, is a text recounting the mythology, the history of the Quiche people. The Mayan people are really known as the Quiche people. The book we're reading out of right now is the story of the Quiche people. So when we read that book, it keeps coming up with the people of the Quiche people. And the reason why it's called the Quiche people is because it's talking about a language they spoke. We called Spanish, well, Spanish we speak. English you speak, right? So we're the Quiche people. One of the Mayan peoples who inhabited Guatemala and Mexico states of Chiapas, Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo, as well as the areas of Belize and Honduras. So my people, my Belizean people, those are my brothers. My Honduran people, those are my brothers. My people from Guatemala, those are my brothers also. Right. You know what I'm saying? We are one family. I will continue. The Popol Vuh is the foundational sacred narrative of the Quiche people from long before the Spanish conquest of Mexico. So the Popol Vuh is a book that was narrated by the Quiche people way before the Spaniard landed on our continent. Okay? Right. That's what I'll say, on our continent. It continues to say it includes the Mayan creation myth. Okay, so we're gonna go into the Mayan creation myth in the book of the Popol Vuh, as Malakma just went into what is that? We were reading about Kukulkan and who he is. So, because we want to know who Kukulkan is. And when we read out of the book, it tells us this man is the man who bring his people across the sea, who bring them from captivity. Now we're understanding who Kukulkan is. He is not an entity. He is not some stone. He is not a feathered serpent. This is just the analogy that they gave this man. You know what I'm saying? Right. This is just what they called him. But he was just a man like everybody else. Right. It goes on to say, the exploits of the two heroes, Huanapu and Chabalanque, and the chronicles of the Quiche people. So that's a story that's on there. So let's go into what the name, the book Popol Vuh, what it means. The name Popol Vuh translates as the book of the community, the book of counsel, or more literally as book of the people. So once again, it's the book of the people. What people? A nation of people,
right?
A group of people, right? What is our Bible to us? It's a book of counsel, right? We can go to it when we need counsel. It's a book of community. It's a book of our people.
Right.
It's also the book of the people. It's a book of who? Of the Hebrew Israelites. That's what the Bible is. The Bible is the book of the Hebrew Israelites. Just the way the Popol Vuh is the book of the Mayan Quiche people, the book of the Bible is the book of the Hebrew Israelites. Every time you look into the Bible, it's gonna reference Hebrew Israelites. Most people think that the Hebrews only existed in the Old Testament, but if you come into the I.S.U.P.K, you realize that Paul himself said, "I am a Roman. I'm a citizen. I'm a Roman citizen, but I am a Hebrew Israelite, right? By blood." Right? So that's only in that one. That's only in when you're reading into the New Testament. But in the end, right, people might still say, well, that was then. Christ came to unite everybody. Well, then let's go into the book of Revelations and see if the Hebrew still exists there. Right. And of course it does. Because there, the kingdom that we're going to inherit has 10 gates. And on those 10 gates, there is 10 names. And those 10 names are the 10 names of the house of Israel, Jacob's son. So now you know that in the Old Testament the Hebrew exists, right? In the New Testament, or if you go into the Matthew 1:1, it's the lineage, the bloodline of Christ. And every single person on that list, Matthew 1:1, is of Hebrew descent. Right. And Christ was of Hebrew descent. Matthew was of Hebrew descent. Luke, Paul, right? Who else? Mark, right? All the apostles were all of Hebrew descent. The people that will inherit the kingdom will all be of Hebrew descent, because that's the way the Bible is written. Just the way the book of the Popol Vuh is a book written for the people. What people? Well, the Hebrew people. Right. That's who the Popol Vuh is. The Popol Vuh is the written history of these people who call themselves Quiche and are known as Hebrew Israelites. Right. That's what that is. So let's continue. It was originally preserved through oral tradition. It's funny that the Popol Vuh was traditionally oral tradition. The Bible was also oral tradition. And then it began to be written. But before, it was orally passed on generation through generation. You know what I'm saying? And then it became a written book. And that's the same thing with the Popol Vuh. Has the same beginning and the same ending as the Bible did. Let's go on. It says, until approximately 1550, when it was recorded in writing, the documentation of the Popol Vuh is created to the 18th century. It was created by the 18th century Spanish friar Francisco Jimenez, who prepared the manuscript with a transcript in Quiche and parallel column with a translation into Spanish. Just like the SHALAM and similar texts, the Popol Vuh is particular importance given in scarcity of early accounts dealing with Mesoamerican mythology. So the SHALAM, the Popol Vuh, what else? The Dresden Codex. These are all books that were written in the Quiche language by the Mayan people. And I think I have in this book, let me borrow this real quick. I want to show you where the translation comes from. And it comes from, not from written language, but from a language like this. This right here is a written language. It is the Quiche, it is the Mayan language. This right here is how they used to write. These are letters, these are numbers, these are writings that they had, and then translated into other languages. So that's where it comes from. So let's go into what the Mayan book of the Quiche of the Popol Vuh says in Quiche. Let's read about the Mayan Exodus. This is how you know that the Mayans, as we're saying, were Hebrew Israelites. So we're going to read a little bit more into this history, and we're going to go ahead and give the account that you got right there.
Kukulkan. From the Popol Vuh, sacred book of the Quiche Maya, translated by Adrian Recinos to mean, they crossed the sea as if there were no sea.
So they crossed the sea as if there was no sea at all, right? They crossed. What did they cross? Go ahead.
They crossed on stones,
right?
Placed in a row over the sand.
So they crossed over stones, placed in a row over the sand. So there's no sea, there's only sand, and there's only stones. Go ahead.
For this reason, they were called stones in a row, sand under the sea. Names given to them when they, the tribes, crossed the sea, the waters having parted when they crossed.
So there you go. So the waters had been parted. This is Kukulkan giving the story of where his people come from, where the Mayans came from. And they're talking about that they crossed over the sea, right? Where the sea was parted, there was nothing but sand, and they were able to cross that way. So let's go into read from here.
When we arrived at the gates of Tulan, we received a red stick, which was our staff.
Which was their what?
Our staff.
They received a staff. Kukulkan is saying that he received a staff. Who else had a staff? Moses had a staff. So now we know that this man goes to some place and he received a staff at some point. Go ahead.
And because of that, we were given the name GEN.
Yeah, that's the keychain name or the Mayan name that was given to him. Go ahead.
Or Salakia. Oh, our sons, Ser, Kagavitz, and Saketqua.
So these are names that are being given to them. This is what they called them. Go ahead.
Let us thrust the points of our staffs into the sand under the sea, and we shall soon cross the sea on the sand, using the red sticks which we went to receive at the gates of Tulan. Thus we passed over the rows of sand when it widened below the sea and on the surface of the sea floor. They plunged forward then and passed over the sand. Those who came at the rear entered the sea as we emerged from the waters on the other bank.
So think about it. Man, he's describing him putting the staff into the water, into the sea, into the sand, and the water opening up. And then he's saying that when they passed on the stone, who the people in the end, correct? He's saying the people at the end. So when the ones that went forward came out of one end, still the other ones were coming in from the other end.
Right.
So he's describing the parting of the sea, Salakia. He's describing the parting of the sea and his people, right, going across the rocks on the sand as the sea parted. So this is the story of Moses.
Right.
That's exactly what you're reading here. The Mayan book of the Popol Vuh is telling the story of the parting of the sea and his people crossing the sea with a staff and a line of people. Read the end part where he says those that came in and those that came out. Go ahead. Let's hear that one more time.
They plunged forward then and passed over the sand. Those who came at the rear entered the sea as we emerged from the waters on the other bank.
Man, imagine that. While one of them was emerging on the other side of the sea, the other ones were barely coming into the sea. You're talking about thousands of people crossing that ocean, crossing that parting of the sea. Thousands of people. Because how many, what was it? It was the nation of Israel that you're talking about here. You're not talking about a few people. You're talking about the nation of Israel coming across the sea.
Right.
So with that, you got to understand that what you're looking at here is that these stories that we're hearing in this book of the Popol Vuh is the exact story of Moses. That's what that is.
Right.
This is a historian talking about this story. And Ayar was with me last night. We did this class in Spanish, and today we're doing it in English because we want everybody to know this story. We want everybody to understand this story. That's why it's so important to hear this, because man, this is educational for our people of Latin America. Because let me tell you something. The people in Latin America, believe it or not, they don't know this story.
Right.
They still believe in Christianity, knowing that their people are the original Israelites, that they knew about Moses, that they knew about the Bible, that they know who the Israelites are. They still believe in Christianity.
So
They still believe in this.
If I could, they want to say there's zero connection to Israel.
And go ahead, let them know. Oh, Salakia.
They want to, claim that there's zero connection. There's no, there's no ties to Israel. There's no ties to being a Hebrew Israelite. Indigenous people are not. You know what I mean? They use it. They want to deny that there's a link. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. You are absolutely right. What's happening here is that our people are in denial of who they really are. You know what I mean? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring Ashkawar into this. Oh, no, it doesn't come up. Okay, there we go. All right, our people are in denial of who they really are. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is common for Hispanics, man. Me and Ayar know it well. We know that a lot of our own people are in denial of what's going on here. You know what I mean? A lot of our people are in denial of who we are. You know what I mean? And where we come from. So we got to understand that when we start reading these books, when we start reading and understanding this history, then we begin to understand who we are. And it's important that we understand who we are, because only then can we separate ourselves completely from Christianity and this Catholic poison and this Christian church and all that. Because the reason that we're there is because we don't understand who we are. We don't know who we really are. And that's why we're still here in the Christian church. That's why we're still here in the Catholic church. That's why we're here, because we do not understand who we are. And what do we got to do? We gotta come back to our original, how could I say, our original culture, which is the Hebrew Israelites, because that's who we are. All right.
Sir, if I could just add something real quick. We know that the Bible says, right, that the serpent was the most subtle beast of the field, right?
Gone.
And we know that, the so-called white man today, the oppressor, has the spirit of the serpent, right? Of Cain and whatnot. So people, all you got to do is put two and two together. Why you think they picked up this Bible and try to use it against you?
Gone.
You don't think for 1 second that the so-called white man knows who we truly are? You don't think they know that they don't know about this land? You really think it was an accident? You really think Columbus came over here trying to find a shortcut to Asia?
Right.
Or is that just a lie that they want you to think? Because in the 12 Tribes lecture, right, Captain Katazal brought it out that Columbus, right, he's a Sephardic Jew, he's an Amalekite, right?
Right.
And that he knew about this land, right, reading Second Ezra's.
Right.
So, you couldn't put it past this oppressor that, knowing who we truly are, he would take that Bible, twist things in it, use it against us, so that we would never want to turn to it.
Right.
So that we would question it, so that we would be traumatized and not want anything to do with it, so that we could stay in the position we're in today, and they can stay in power.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the reason why we got to do these classes is very simple, because what we're going to do is we're going to come out with the truth. And what we're doing today is a heavy truth, because how many of us who are raza, you know, knew that the Mayans knew they were that they were of the tribe of Issachar,
Right.
or that they were the Hebrew Israelites, because they didn't know their tribe. They just knew, they just kind of understood they were Hebrew Israelites,
Right.
And they didn't know that. They don't know that. So how are we going to know that? Us
Right.
that have been infected and destroyed with Christianity, right, and the Catholic Church, how are we
Right.
going to know that? How are we going to understand that? We could never understand that. The only way we understand who we are is by, once again, relearning our history. And for us Hispanics, man, let me tell you something. Para toda la raza mexicana, all us Hispanics, man, it should be easy for us to find our history, especially in a time like now that Mexico is in the spotlight for discoveries of ancient artifacts of the Aztec
Right.
people, of the Mayan people, of the Toltec people, right? And since we're in the spotlight of that, what better than to join in and find our truth, which is that we are Hebrew Israelites.
Right.
So right now, reading out of this, we found out that to begin with, Kukulkan was not some deity. Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl were not some stone or some god in the sky. He was not some entity that just appeared and disappeared.
Right.
None of that. He was a man. Who was he? He was obviously a man who knew that he was a Hebrew Israelite. He's also obviously a man who knew the story of Moses.
So like, sir,
Go
he
ahead.
was a leader.
He was a leader, absolutely. That boils it down. That's exactly what he really was. He was a leader. He was a leader in the community known as the Quiche people, in the civilization that was advanced in every single way, right? So these are the people that we knew exactly who we are, and this man here was one of our leaders. We got I.S.U.P.K on here too. So man, Most High in Christ, the water. It took me a little bit, but I finally got it because I'm over here getting everybody in. But I'm trying to get everybody on. So now we know who we are, where we come from. Let's go into another story. I want to bring out another story here real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me
You twabba one?
I got one more. I got another story to bring out. We know so now that he is the hero of the Mayans, correct? Let me see. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's go into the Mayan book and who is Satan in comparison to the Satan that we know in the Bible and the Satan that the Mayans know, right? Because the Mayans also were aware of a so-called Satan. So
Right.
let's find out who this Satan was and how the Mayans already knew. Once again, the name of the title of this show is The Mayans Knew About the Bible way before the Spaniards got here. So let's find out how. And how we're finding this out is by reading in their ancient books that they had written in the Quiche language that were written, and it's called pre-Columbian. The books existed before the conquest of Spain.
Right.
So let's read into this, and you can go ahead and start on that.
Conquest, sir. Right here? From
Yeah, you can start at the beginning.
Okay. Satan is described in the Bible as a vain, self-cherisher, desiring dominance among men. He is variously called the deceiver, the father of lies, and the prince of darkness. Such statements as the way of the wicked is as darkness, Proverbs 4:19, it means obscurity as if to hide. It also means wickedness, ignorance, death, and dark, etc. Clearly point to those who are said to obey Satan. Satan is said to have fallen away from grace. All of this, it would appear, is to be Salakia. All of this, it would appear to be caused by a great lack of faithless on his part. In other words, these epithets have, at one time or another, been applied to Satan. Example, Deuteronomy 33 and 29. Satan is called liar. The word kakash is used. He is said to work iniquity in secret or in the dark, and that those who follow him do their work in the dark so as not to be seen by men. So in general character, Kukulkan fits the character mold of the biblical Satan, even down to express biblical usage of the exact word kakash for Satan's followers. To a linguist, it is immediately apparent that there is little or no Hebrew grammar present in these translations. The only answer to this criticism that makes any sense at all is that the Mayan form of Shemitic is Creole or Pidgin Shemitic, altered over the millennia to its present decadent form. The loose translations into archaic Spanish done by Catholic missionaries in the 16th century did little to help the understanding of the possibility of a Shemitic origin for Mayan. Many words have obviously changed meaning over the thousands of years involved. As an example, Balaam now means jaguar, but it was anciently applied to the names of all of the chief Mayan forefathers that were certainly not jaguars.
Okay, so let me stop right there real quick, because what we're reading here is that in the Mayan language they have a word known as Balaam, correct? Is that what it says? They use the word Balaam. Balaam is a Mayan word which means feline. I know it as feline or cat or jaguar, but it's really relating. The word Balaam, right, is really relating to a cat. That's what they call the feline or the jaguar or the tiger. So the word for jaguar, right, in the Quiche is Balaam is the word. So but Balaam, right, if you look at the word Balaam, you can find the word Balaam in the Bible. In the book of Numbers, they got the word Balaam. I'll read the chapter, or if let me see, Oscar War. Let's read this right here, because I just want everybody to know this word. We're gonna read those chapters right there. So let me show you how the Quiche people, the people of this place, Balaam, and what did it say? Balaam meant what?
Jaguar.
Jaguar. But what else did it mean? It had a meaning. It meant what?
It was applied of all of the chief Mayan forefathers.
It was applied to what? The chief Mayan forefathers. So the word Balaam meant someone of high rank, or someone that you looked up to, or someone that had some kind of significance within the community. And meaning like a high-ranking officer or high-ranking person. But the word Balaam, you can find it in the Mayan book of the Popol Vuh, in a lot of the Mayan books, right? I'm gonna go through a lot of the Mayan books. You can find the word Balaam. Let's find the word Balaam in the Bible. Go ahead, Oscar Warren.
So this is the book of Numbers, chapter 23 and verse 2. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken.
As who?
Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram.
So Balaam was a high priest, because who was able to offer on the altars but a priest? Correct? Right. That's the only people that could offer. You had to be a priesthood to be able to offer on the altar. Go on to the next one.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 24 and verse 10. And Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he smote his hands together. And Balak said unto Balaam, I called thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times.
So what happened is that Balak and Balaam had a downfall, because Balak was over here trying to tell him, oh, I'm going to call you priest for you can curse my enemies. But Balak didn't do that. What Balaam did was, on the contrary, those that he thought were enemies were not enemies at all. So go on to the next one.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 22 and verse 27. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, so I can read that again. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with a staff.
So what we're getting at here is that let me get so what we're getting here is that the word Balaam exists in the Bible in various precepts. You know what I'm talking about? You go to Joshua, but I would not hearken unto Balaam. Therefore he blessed you still, so I delivered you out of his hand. So you got Balaam, right, all throughout the Bible. The word Balaam is a Hebrew word, an ancient Hebrew word.
Right.
And what we're seeing here is, of course, that the word Balaam was known to the Quiche Mayan people. That's what we're really looking at here. That it was known to the Quiche Mayan people. So what you're seeing here is that the Quiche Mayan people knew the Hebrew language.
Right.
And with this, we're reading right now that, read it again, where it says Balaam.
Kukulkan. As an example, Balaam now means jaguar.
Balaam means jaguar. So the word is changed. It used to be the name of a high priest, and it became a name for what? For men of rank.
Kukulkan.
Right.
But it was anciently applied to the names of all of the chief Mayan forefathers that were certainly not jaguars.
So the chief Mayan forefathers were known as Balaams. Why? Because let's face it, somebody they knew during the Hebrew times was a high priest, or looked at as a high-ranking person, and they would call him Balaam. So now they use the word Balaam, and they gave it to a jaguar. Now they gave it to some animal. Now, where do you see that today? You know, we see that all over the place. Now we use names, and we just name people for any reason at all. It has lost its power. The words have lost their power, and now we just give names for whatever. And here you see it. They're giving the name to power. But why did they give the jaguar the name Balaam? Most likely because it was a powerful creature, a powerful entity, a tiger, a jaguar. A jaguar would tear a baby up, tear a human up. So they gave that to him as a powerful. In other words, Balaam to them meant powerful. So go ahead, continue reading.
Kukulkan, sir. This process occurs in most modern languages. As another example, if a person is called gay nowadays, that does not mean that he is happy in the least, as was the case 40 or so years ago, but rather one who was a homosexual. If this man was said to give aid to people that didn't care to be aided, we would have taken an entirely different interpretation of those words. The original meaning of these words, sadly, has been supplanted by the new usage.
Right, so we see that the use of words has been changed. We don't use the same words no more. The word Balaam at one point meant something important. Now it's been downsized to something of no importance at all. Continue.
Right. In keeping with this line of thought, the reversal of meaning of phrases is also potentially present. It appears to have occurred with the title of the most famous and sacred book of the ancient Maya, the Popol Vuh. According to those who know such things, Popol is supposed to mean community, and Vuh is said to mean paper or book. In the context which we presently find ourselves, that is Shemitic word comparisons, it becomes apparent, however, that Popol originally meant paper, not community. It is clear that papyrus is an Egyptian Shemitic cognate. The English word paper is derived from it, as is the French and German word papier, and the Spanish word papel, which seems to be precisely the same word as is used by the Shemitic-speaking Maya.
Right. So as we see, we're seeing the change of words. We're seeing how things are being changed, how words are being changed, and we've lost the power of words. And that brings us to an important subject today. And and up to date today, in the ISUPK, we know the importance of words. That's why when you come into the ISUPK wearing all black, you're giving a new name.
Right.
Because we understand that the name that you have now has no meaning to it. The name that you maybe have been given, right, at birth in the world, that name has no value to it. It has no standing. It has no, how could I say, no foundation. And that's what our Mayan brothers used to know. That's what our Hebrew brothers used to know. They used to know that words and names were very important.
Right.
Especially a name. They knew that having a name would give you a certain type of power. You know what I'm saying? When they gave the name Christ, well, Christ is a powerful name.
Right.
Christ has a meaning. You know, where did we lose the meanings to words? I'll tell you when the Spaniards came and started giving names like Manuel and Jesus, right? And what else? Enrique, right? And Miguel. You know, these words no longer have power. These words are just common words, common names given to saints. You know what I'm saying? These words mean nothing. But you come into the UPK and we're following, as it says in this book that Malakma is reading, the words now become powerful again. Now your name means something. My name, Kazakh Yad, means powerful, right? It means strong hands. It has a powerful meaning to it. You know what I mean? It gives you a sense of importance. A name that you gotta, meet up to. Now you got two things in life. Now you gotta meet up to everything around you, and you gotta work up to your name. What is your name, Malama? What does that mean?
Battle.
Man, that means battle. Imagine that. It means battle. Oscar, what does your name mean?
Fiery furnace.
Fiery furnace. Imagine these names that are given to us for a reason. Right. Something that we lacked in the world. What did we lack in the world? To begin with, we lacked knowledge, right? Second, we lacked our own strength, our own foundation, and our name has a lot to do with it. Man, I'm pretty sure that when your child is being born, when your son especially your son, right?
Right.
When your son is being born, man, you're trying to get the baddest name out there. You know, you're trying to get a bad name for your son.
Right.
You're like, man, what am I going to name my son? Man, you're going through all night trying to find the right name for your son. And then you come with a name like Michael. Why you got Michael? Well, because Michael was the archangel, right?
Right.
But now you got people talking about I'm naming him Michael
Zeus.
Because of Michael Jackson.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now they're talking about, I'm going to name him after 50 cents. I'm going to name him after, they're naming their children after nonsense. The names have no more meaning. You know what I'm saying? You got people naming their children after presidents. You got, hey, where'd you get your name from? Oh, I got my name because my dad named me after this president. Oh, I got my name because my dad named me after a singer, after an artist, after his favorite movie star. Man, come on now. These names have no more meaning. These names mean nothing at all. You're naming your child after what? A pedophile? After what? A gay person? Is that the correct word to use? A gay person?
I think so.
Is that because now we don't even know what the correct word is? You know what I'm saying? But what is
alternative lifestyle?
Alternative lifestyle, absolutely. So now you're naming your children after whatever you can possibly think of. This is what people are doing nowadays. They no longer have a foundation of what their name is really gonna mean.
Salak, sir.
Go ahead.
Hey, what is it? Sisters in the world be naming their kids Hennessy and Alizé.
Oh, absolutely, man. Hennessy and man, Remy.
Remy.
I'm gonna name my child Remy. Why?
Right.
Because it sounds so cool. Remy Martin. Because it's what I drank at the
Right.
club. Because
Good
it was the
night,
most
man.
expensive bottle when I got the table at the on the front. That was the most expensive bottle, so I'm calling my child that. And like that, you know what? Oh, Renah, shout for joy. Absolutely, Renah. Hey, bring him out. I'm gonna put him up. I'm gonna start saying what names mean. Renah means shout for joy. What a great name, right? What if we would have known that in the past? What if you would have named your child, when you were in the world, Renah, shout for joy. And they would have asked you, what is your daughter's name? Renah. What does that mean? That's the first thing that would come out. What does that mean? means shout for joy. The Native American Indians did the same. They would name their child, and then when you translated, it would mean like what? Sitting bull, or running swift, or you know, something like that. Something so important. You know what I mean? That Tlatoni. And what does Tlatoni means? One who speaks. You know, they would give you names that had a true meaning to it. You know, man, I don't know everybody's names, you know, in the here in the school. I just know like Rana. I knew her name was Rana, but I didn't know it meant shout for joy. You know, that's why we have the classes, right?
Right.
On Fridays, we got the Hebrew classes where you can begin to learn what the Hebrew words have meanings, what they really mean, and that is to educate us. And now, man, I'm gonna put it on the class right now. They got starting, I believe, in January, the I.S.U.P.K school, right, for your kids.
Oh, right.
From
Right.
second
Most
grade
High in
to
Christ,
12th
man.
grade. You know, Most High in Christ. Now the I.S.U.P.K has an online school where you can take your children to start getting educated in real studies of Hebrew Israelite culture and our language and our writing. And I mean, imagine that our children are going to grow up understanding the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew language.
Right.
Now, how powerful is that? Like, we're the generation, me and Malakma and Ashkawar. Think about it, guys. We're the generation who started to take our kids back to our original culture.
Right.
We get to experience that. We get, man, we're the forefathers. If the Lord doesn't come soon, the children are going to look at us and be like, those were the ones that started it. When Israel becomes a nation, all of us here on this thread are going to be the forefathers. The ones that they're going to remember as those who taught. Those who were the first teachers. Man, what an honor to be able to say that. What an honor to sit here today and understand that in the future, we're going to be looked at as those that started right alongside Commanding General Yohanna.
Right.
And General Mahaiman and Captain Tazariak and all the great captains and generals and all of us who are here in the ISUPK teaching our next generation of children the truth. And coming on the Mayan point of view, we lost it, just like the way the man is saying. We lost the words, we lost the culture, we lost everything. The Mayans knew they were Hebrew Israelites. The Mayans knew the stories of the Bible. And then all of a sudden it became lost.
Right.
It became lost when the conquest came, when the Spaniard came and confused us on our true culture.
Right.
And then it went further because then the English came and destroyed us even further, putting us into these schools and into this education system and teaching us and pulling us farther away from our true culture, our true heritage, our true bloodline. The Mayans knew who they were, as we saw right now in this book. The Mayans knew about Moses. The Mayans knew about the parting of the sea. The Mayans knew they came from the east. I'm going to read that right now. We knew everything about ourselves and we lost it. But guess what? All of us here today are going to help to bring a generation of kids back to the original culture. Back to their original state. We're going to wake up and we're going to become Israel again. We're going to become a nation once again. A powerful nation. And just to begin with, next year is the beginning of the school season for the ISUPK school.
That's right.
What a man.
Right.
What a great thing. When your children are going to learn, man, we're going to be like, they're going to, you know how kids today say, "Oh, Dad, you're old. You know, you're old school." What do they tell you, man? You're in the past. You know, you're living in the past. You know, man. Imagine your kids are gonna be like, "Dad, you don't speak Hebrew." You'll be like, "Damn, yeah, I kind of do. I know some words." And they're gonna teach us at home. At home, our kids, our little ones, are gonna teach us Hebrew Hebrew culture. They're gonna teach us the Hebrew language. Right. You're no longer gonna have to go on Friday. Well, you are, right? You still gotta assist in the Friday class. But you're not only going to get assistance from the Friday class, your kids are going to come home every day and teach you some word in Hebrew. You know, They're going to teach you how to say ama, right? Yapa, right? I don't know, all the words in Hebrew that are important for us to learn. And they're going to teach us all these words. And why? Because we are so pushing forward with teaching ourselves and our children about the Hebrew culture and waking ourselves up once again to who we are, right? What's that precept? In the land of their captivity, they will remember who they are, and they will call me by my name, and then we will be a nation again. We will be a people again. And that's exactly in the time that we're living. This is the appointed time. Always say that. This is the appointed time. This is the time when we're about to remember who we are. And our children are going to remember who they are. And we're going to move forward into coming back to our original culture, our original state. So let me go into one more of our study here. I want to bring one more here for you. Give me 1 second here. Because we already read about the Hebrew Exodus. And we're going to go into this. We're going to go into the parallel histories, right, of the Mayan creation of the earth, of the world. This is from the book of the Popol Vuh. Once again, if you didn't read, if you just logged on, the beginning of this program, very important in understanding the Popol Vuh, the book of the Mayan people, and the creation story, the story of the flood, the story of the parting of the sea, Moses, the story of the walls of Jericho. We're going to get into that right now. We're going to see all this right now. We're going to go into it. But first, let's go ahead and read this here, which we're going to jump into real quick. And it's the story of creation. This is the Mayan point of view of how the world was created. And go ahead.
The Popol Vuh contains a creation story which depicts the earth as having existed before man, covered with water for a period, and is later flooded to destroy the first men.
So it talks about two periods, right? One that destroyed man, and then another period, in other words, two worlds, a pre-flood and after the flood, the pre and the post-flood era. That's what it's talking about. Go ahead.
In other words, the earth had in its history two distinct floods separated by a time during which man lived on the planet. Before the world was created, calm and silence were the great kings that ruled. Nothing existed. There was nothing. Things had not yet been drawn together. The face of the earth was unseen. There was only motionless sea and a great emptiness of sky. There were no men anywhere, or animals, no birds or fish, no crabs, trees, stones, caves, grass forests. None of these existed yet. There was nothing that could tremble or cry in the air. Flatness and emptiness, only the sea alone and breathless. It was night. Silence stood in the dark.
All right. So that is the story of creation according to the Mayan people. That's in their book, the Popol Vuh. If I was to read Genesis 1:1, you would hear the same story that you're hearing the Mayans talk about. You would hear the same story here. And I'm going to go ahead and read the parallels of the Mayan story in the Bible. So it says the Genesis account also states that the earth was covered with water. Before the world of man and animals were created. Just the same way it is written in the Mayan account. So I'm going to read Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Right? It says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. What is the deep? The deep is the ocean. Isn't that what that is? The Mayan account is before the world was created, calm and silent were the great kings that ruled. Now, look how it's using the word great kings that ruled, because the way our ancestors used to speak, the way we used to speak was different than what we speak today. I would say that the way our ancestors used to speak was more poetic, They had a more poetic way of speaking of things. They said that darkness, that calm and silent were great kings. You know what I'm saying? That's why sometimes in the Bible, when they say giants, they don't mean giants in size. They mean giants in form. In other words, like I could be a giant. Today you call movie stars stars. They're not really stars. They're actually using that as a metaphor to describe them in a certain way. Why? Because a star is high above everything else. So when you talk about a movie star, you're talking about a person that's high above everybody else. When you talk about a star, a movie star, and you talk about a star in the sky, well, you look up to a star in the sky. And that's the same thing that they use as a metaphor to describe a movie star. It's somebody that you're going to look up to. Someone that shines on where? On the big screen. And where does a star shine? Well, a star shines on the big screen of the sky. So here you have a metaphor describing a person as a star, as a metaphor for an object in the sky that's brilliant, that stands out, that's above everything, that shines. And they're using that same metaphor to describe that. So when you read about giants in the Bible, you're talking about people who were giant kings, people who ruled, people who had a say over everything. These are giants that they so call, right? And here we're hearing the Mayan account say, before the world was created, calm and silence were the great kings that ruled. It says nothing existed. Well, the earth was without form and void. What is void? Without existence. Void means nothing. That's without form means nothing. It says nothing existed and there was nothing. So he uses that same word in the Mayan book of the Popol Vuh. You're using the same word twice. Nothing existed. There was nothing. The Bible did the same thing. The earth was without form and void. That's the word that's being used twice. Without form and void means the same thing. Means there's nothing there. It's empty. It says things had not yet been drawn together. What does that mean? Well, that means darkness was upon the face of the earth, right? The face of the earth was unseen. Well, there you go. When the face of the earth is unseen, what does it mean? It's dark. You can't see nothing. It's unseen. The Bible uses the word upon the face. The darkness was, it says, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, right? And it says that there was nothing. It was nothing. It's deep. It's empty. There's nothing there, right? Then it goes on to say, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So there was only motionless sea. There you go. Upon the face of the water, right? There's nothing there. It's just dark. And a great emptiness of the sky. And there is nothing there. And there was no man anywhere, or no animals, no birds, no fish, no crabs, no trees, stones, caves, grass, forests. None of these existed yet. So God didn't make anything. All he did was make nothing, right? God made everything. When did he create man? To the seventh day, right? And it goes on to say there was nothing that could tremble or cry in the air, flatness and emptiness. Only the sea alone and breathless. It was night, silence stood in the dark. So God describes it the same way. The Bible describes the creation the same way. Nothing, formless, right? God moved upon the face of the waters. There was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing. Right. It was completely darkness. There was an emptiness. And the Popol Vuh is describing the creation that's in the Bible in the same manner. Oh, God. They're doing the same thing, describing creation in the same manner. Right. So what else is there?
The Mayan account.
Okay, go ahead.
The Quiché Maya list in most of the títulos and the Popol Vuh an ancestor called Balaam, Akkad, whose people lived in the east across the ocean in a land called Tulan, Quechua civilization, these ancestors of the Quiché Maya were white. They claimed to be a people of two lordships, one people, two lordships, whose ancestors had come from a region of 7 caves. They listed these forefathers with the title Balaam, which appropriately in Hebrew means lords.
So the Balaam is a lord. That's what Balaam means, a lord. And who are our lords? Well, we had plenty of lords, right?
Oh,
King
God.
David was a lord.
Right.
When that right, King David was a lord. You're looking at the lordships that existed in Israel at that time. You know what I'm saying? Here you're looking at the lordships, and that is exactly what the Mayans are saying. They're talking about the same thing. They're saying that these people had lords. They had lordship. They had high-ranking people who took care of everybody. They went to them. The Toltecs were the same. The Toltecs were the leaders, were the how could I say, the high priest of the Toltec race.
Right.
That's who they were. They were the high priest of the Toltec race. Just the way the Mayans had leaders who were the high priests, who were the men, the lords of the Mayan people. And what is a lord? You know, when you say, oh Lord, well, what does the word Lord mean, right? Well, what does the word Lord mean? Go ahead.
Like
A lord means like a leader, right? A king, a lordship, a ruler. That's what a lord is. A ruler. When a woman calls you my lord, well, he's just calling you, like, she's giving you a rank. She's giving you a meaning, right? Like you own, like, well, yeah, you own her. That she's yours. That's a lord. And these lords were the Mayan people. These were his people. Kukulkan was the lord of these people. These were his people. He saved these people. You know what I mean? So what else do we got?
Kukulkan. Mayan account. Well, here we go on the Israelite account. The Bible has it that their forefather of the people of Israel and Judah, one people, two lordships, was a man called Jacob, Yaquab, later surnamed Israel. His name is based on the Hebrew prime root akab, meaning to supplant, as he was to supplant his elder brother Esau. Were you an Israelite of his time? Could you have referred to him as Baal Yaakov, Lord Jacob? If you were referring to his immediate family or his successors, you might have said Baal Yaakov, Lords of Jacob. To carry this idea a bit further, had you followed the common Hebrew practice of dropping the first vowel of names, Sak, Abraham, Braham, Yaakov, Akab, you would have vocalized by limb, Akab, which, as you can see, is the name of Maya forefather, patriarch of Popol Vuh fame.
This man was also a patriarch for the Mayan people. So they knew who Jacob was. They knew who this man was. They knew the power he had, and they knew exactly who he was. So the Mayan people knew all about not only Jacob, but they knew about Moses. They knew about the creation story. They knew about the parting of the sea. They knew all about these things. They knew about the flood. The Mayan people wrote the accounts in the Popol Vuh that we also read in the Bible. The Popol Vuh being one of the oldest books translated from a language known as Quiché into the language that we know today. So let me go into one more story because we're running out of time, and I don't want to miss this story here because we're cutting it short. But we're going to read the story of Jericho in the Mayan book. Now, if you know the story of Jericho, it reads like this, right? We know that in the story of Jericho, let me get that story real quick because I want to read it so that we can go. What is that? Precept upon precept, right?
Right.
Give me 1 second while I get this. we go. Give me 1 second. All right. So this is, of course, it's in the book of Joshua, where you're going to read chapter 6, I believe it is. So in the story, or let me before we we move forward, I'm just going to tell a little bit about the story of Jericho. I'm pretty sure everybody knows it. The Most High called onto Jericho, onto Joshua, Salakia, called onto Joshua, and he put the city of Jericho into his hands by, what did he do? Knock down the walls, correct? Right. He dropped the walls of Jericho, Joshua 6:6. He dropped down the walls of Jericho, right? And the way he did it is what's important. The way he went about to destroy Jericho was like nothing else anyone has ever seen. Because when you read the story of Jericho, the way the battle was won is like you could never think you could win a battle like that. You know what I mean? If you have it, if not, I'll read it. But if you got it, you can read it. And we'll go from 6:3. You can read right here. Look.
Okay.
So let's go 6:3. Ready? Go ahead, and we're gonna listen closely to how this battle was won in Jericho. Go ahead.
The book of Joshua, chapter 6, verse 3. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days.
So the Most High told Joshua, get your men of war, right? Get all your men of war. What are men of war? You can imagine a man of war has his shield on, has his sword, has his battle gear. These are men of war. Like when you're gonna go to war, you suit up for war, right? You get ready for war. You got your spears in those days. You got your sword, right? You got your headgear. You got everything ready to go to war. And he said, get your men together, right? And go around about the city once. So Joshua got his men. And what were they doing? They were going around the walls of Jericho. Go ahead.
Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets.
So God tells them that you'll get 7 priests, and of course, the Ark of the Covenant. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be going around the city with trumpets. So why is he doing this? Why is this doing this? So let's go on to the next one. It's chapter 5.
And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout.
Shall what?
Shall shout.
With
a great shout.
With a what?
Great shout. And the wall of the city shall fall down flat. And the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him.
So, what's the idea here? That Joshua is going to go around the city with these trumpets. And they're going to be blowing these trumpets. But not only blowing these trumpets, but the men are going to shout. Not just any shout, but a great shout. So you're going to be making, what is that saying? You're going to be making a lot of noise. Like the whole purpose of this is to make noise. Great noise. Like they wanted you to be shouting and blowing the trumpets and making noise, man. You know what I'm saying? Like this was the tactic of war that God told Joshua to use to bring down the walls of Jericho. To win this battle against their enemies, they were going to use what? Noise. Right. They were going to use loud noises to, I don't know, scare them maybe, or confuse them, or something they were going to do to make this happen. So before you read that, let me continue this a little bit. So, and then it says, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. So what is that? That means that you're gonna that the people would go straight into the place, right? And let me read. And Joshua and the son of Nun called the priest and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. So this is where they're beginning to do as the Lord has said. And he said unto the people, pass on and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Lord. So now you got these soldiers going around and passing the ark and just going around and around. And armed went before the priest and blew with the trumpets, and rewarded come after the ark, and the priest going on blowing with the trumpet. So here's more noise and more noise. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout nor make noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout. Then you shall shout. So it was a plan. You weren't just going to be shouting. It was how could I say, it was orchestrated. On this certain time, on this certain day, you're all going to begin to shout, right? And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark went on continually and blew with the trumpets, and the armed men went before them. But the reward came after the ark of the Lord, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. So for 6 days they're going around the camp and blowing the trumpets and making all this noise, right? And so let's go down and okay, here we go. Let me go into this, and then we're going to go into the Popol Vuh. And so it says like this. It says, so the people shouted when the priest blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, and every man straight before him, and they took the city. So what happened there? They did not fight at all. All they did was blow the trumpets, make noise, and all of a sudden the walls came down. And Joshua and his people went in there and took the city. But how they did it? They did it by, man, you want to call it a miracle? They did it by a miracle. That's how they got the city. So let's read the account of the Popol Vuh, the Mayan book, the sacred Mayan book. And this is the story of Joshua. Now let's hear the story of the Mayans when they're talking about the same story that they already knew before the conquest of Mexico, before the Spaniards conquered El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Central America. The Mayans already knew. The Quiche people already knew the story of the Bible. They already knew the story of the flood. They already knew the story of Moses. They already knew the story of the parting of the sea. They already knew the story of Satan. They already knew the story of creation. And most people who hear this, especially Mexican people or Latin American people, they'll be like, bro, it was just a coincidence. That's already 5 coincidences that I've already mentioned. So you're a coincidence theorist, right? Because you're definitely not, in your right mind. But let's go on. Let's read this. Let's read out of the book of the Popol Vuh, the Mayan story of the Battle of Jericho. Go ahead, read. Hang on 1 second. Let me get you on here real quick. Go ahead, Malakma, read that story.
The tribes did not number 16,000 or 24,000 men, but even more. They surrounded the town, crying out loudly, armed with arrows and shields.
So, hang on. So they surrounded a town, right? Armed with shields and spears, right? And remember, I'm going to remind you real quick about the author, how he said that stories were changed through time. They still have the same meaning. The words have been changed. The meaning of the words have been changed, but they still mean the same thing. They still have the same context. Go ahead.
They surrounded the town, crying out loudly, armed with arrows and shields, beating drums, giving war whoops, whistling, shouting, inciting them to fight.
What were they doing?
Shouting, inciting them to fight. When they arrived in front of the town, they only thought of the strength and the shouting of the tribes when they came up the side of the mountain. Shortly before they were about to throw themselves at the entrance of the town, the 4 gourds which were at the edge of town were open, and the bumblebees and wasps came out of the gourds. It was like a great cloud of smoke that emerged, which stung the pupils of their eyes. They could no longer grasp their bow of valor, because the warriors were not killed by the same arrows or by shields. They could no longer grasp their bow and their shields, which were broken to the ground. Neither was it a deed of valor, because the warriors were not killed by arrows or by shields.
So, once again, just like in the battle of Jericho, who bring the walls down? The Lord bring the wall down.
Right.
The Lord, by making all this noise, by following the Lord's instructions of going around the city. And what they go around? They went around the town.
Right.
What did they do in Jericho? They blew trumpets and shouted. What did they do in this place? What did the Mayans do? They shouted and they beat drums.
Right.
What kind of people were they? They were warriors.
Right.
Who held spears and shields. And what kind of people did Joshua had? He had warriors. That's the kind of people he had. They went there, and I'm going to use the word miracle, right? They miraculously made the walls of Jericho fall apart by just shouting and making noise. And what did they do here? The Mayans, by shouting and doing all this, conjured up a bunch of bees and wasps that went out and won the war for them.
Right.
God won the war for Joshua.
Right.
God is the one who won that war. And here, the relevance that we see here is that they knew that a God or a miracle or something out of the ordinary helped them win that war.
Right.
This is the story that the Mayans are telling that's equivalent to the story of Jericho, the walls of Jericho. Because when you tell people the story of the walls of Jericho, the scientific analysis of the Americans.
Zero connection.
Zero connection, absolutely. There is no connection to Joshua going around blowing trumpets and winning a war. Just the way when you read this story in the Popol Vuh, you're going to think, bro, there's no connection to these Mayan people going there and shouting and beating and making noise and winning a war and circling a city or a town. There is no connection to it. You know what I'm saying? Once again, there is no connection. Once again, 6 different instances of stories that are found in the Popol Vuh and are found in the book of the Quiche and in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? But there's no connection.
Zero connection.
Zero connection. There's 5 different instances. But the Mayans are not Hebrew Israelites. They're not Israelites. Yeah, if you tell anybody out there, bro, they're not Hebrew Israelites. We're not Hebrew Israelites. We're Mayans. Okay, so where did you come from? The story, I didn't even go into it, but the story of the 7 caves, the story of Tula, right? Tula, the story of Tula. Well, where is Tula at? What city is that? Well, let me try to find it real quick, because I'm gonna, before we get out of here, let me get this. I want to show you where the Tula is, right? And let me see, because of course we gotta let you know where that is too. Give me 1 second. I know I have it here. Sometimes I gotta, I gotta be ready, prepared with all this, because I get too much into it that then I forget. Well, man, we did the Balaam, we did the Quiche, but. Once again, as we see, you can tell that this is our heritage, right? These are our people. We have so much in common with okay, right here. This is the one. Right here. What does it say?
These were the 3 nations of the Quiches, and they came from where the sun rises.
Oh man, these are the 3 nations of the Quiche, and they came from where the sun rises. Where does the sun rise at?
In the east.
In the east. When we pray as Hebrew Israelites, where do we pray?
East.
We pray to the east. They knew that their people came from the east. They knew where they came from. They knew that they were Hebrew Israelites. And I want to find one more here, and I will find it. Give me 1 second. But they knew that they came from the east. They knew exactly where they came from.
Right.
They knew exactly who they people were. They knew exactly what bring them to this place. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Because I want to bring last one. And so our people, man, whether you're from the Mayan side or Central America, or you're a Nahuatl, right? What is a Nahuatl? That's our original land, right? For the Aztecs, for the people of Mexico, we are a Nahuatl. We are the Anahuac people. So when we talk about a Nahuatl, we're talking about the same. We're talking about the people that come from the land that was once known as our home, which is in the east, which is what? Jerusalem.
Right.
Pretty much that's what it is. We're Jerusalem. The Hebrew Israelites, the Mayans, we all knew that that's who we were. We were from the east. We came from that land, and we were the Hebrew Israelites. So I was gonna bring that one. That last one, but okay, we'll have to leave it for another day. For now, I'm gonna pass it up. But okay. So anyways, a little bit of history from the Mayan book of the Popol Vuh and its correlation, of course, to the Bible. You know what I mean? Ayar says it was done by following orders. Absolutely, that's what it was. The Aztec kind of did the same thing. They used a death flute as they walked into war. Khan Ayar, you're absolutely right. They used to have different whistles, different sounds, and there was a certain flute or a certain whistle they used to use as a death whistle. I read a story by one of the conquistadores that said that they were filled with fright because in the night they could hear a strange sound in the distance, and it sounded like death, it said. And what they would do, they would make these sounds, and they would make these sounds to certain aspects of it, either a sound of happiness or a bright sound, but this was certainly a sound of death. You know what I'm saying? And they used to use that to scare off, to ward off the Spaniards or even the enemies. But I would think that the enemies there knew about the sounds, but the Spaniards had never heard anything like that. The Spaniards were completely frightened by hearing the whistles that the Mayans used to use or the Aztecs used to use. Today, when you go to Aztec, what is that? Those Aztec reunions, the danzas. You know, right there they sell the whistles, they sell different artifacts, or people make them, replicas, and they sell the whistles, different whistles. And definitely, Ayar, you're absolutely right. They would use these whistles to ward off, the Spaniards with fear of when they would hear this whistle. And you're right, Ayar, when in the Battle of Jericho, they won the Battle of Jericho. Joshua won the Battle of Jericho by following the orders of God. I'm pretty sure there were soldiers among the ranks that were like, really? We're going to win a war by screaming and yelling. We're going to win a war by blowing trumpets. Really? Like, come on, get it together. And in the Mayan story, they did the same. In the Mayan story, they circled this town. They were yelling, they were shouting, they were screaming, they were beating drums. And by following orders, they won. But I would say that this story of the Mayans, remember what you're hearing here is that the Mayan story, this is the beauty of it. The stories that we're reading about the Mayans were passed on, verbally. So at some point, the stories kind of changed in how they're being told. They still have the same context, but it's just not like it was. Did you ever play that game when someone would tell somebody, and they would keep passing it down the line, and eventually when it got to the end, the damn word changed. It was no longer the same. It had changed. And that's the same thing today. Today, black Hispanics and Native American Indians are going through the same damn thing. Because today we're seeing, what is that called? Lahab's here with us. What is that called, Lahab? About history where they're trying to change it? The Southern Baptist Church.
Oh, the critical race theory?
Critical race theory. The thing of critical race theory is doing the same thing today. The critical race theory is changing history. You know, eventually history will be changed, and the slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, will be called the biggest immigrant story in history.
Right.
Where immigrants came to America to find a better life.
Good night,
you know what
man.
I'm saying? That's going to be the critical race theory. Critical race theory will say, you know, black people came to America to find a better life, and, you know, they just didn't work hard enough. You know,
like,
go ahead.
They're going to say Mexico wanted to sell the land to America. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Critical race theory will say the people of Chavez Ravine wanted a baseball stadium. They wanted to have a team.
So like I think I might have a critical race theory. I think is teaching about the atrocities America has done to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. I don't know what's the other one. Whitewashing history.
Absolutely.
I think.
I'm gonna say that gentrification is a form of atrocity on our people.
Right.
That's why I mentioned the Dodger Stadium, because that's a form of atrocity to it. That's redlining when it comes to selling property to black Hispanics, Native American Indians. The redlining started with all that of better housing or finding better housing for people. They were not trying to find better housing for people. What they were really doing was gentrifying our neighborhoods. And you know, a lot of black folks don't know this. But there was the Johnson brothers. The Johnson brothers were a black family that lived at the Chavez Ravine.
Right.
So they didn't only take Hispanics out of Chavez Ravine, they also took black families out of Chavez Ravine.
Right.
And the reason that this was going on is because America wanted to get rid of Hispanics in this area. They see our neighborhoods as a sore eye. They see black, Hispanic, Native American, Indian neighborhoods as a sore eye. To them, we're a sore thumb to them. We're like, oh man, you know, their neighborhood's not that good. Our neighborhoods are never good. You know what I'm saying? You know what our neighborhoods are too loud.
Right.
Our neighborhoods are too rowdy. You know, our children too uppity. Our children are too uppity. Our children are too loud. That's the problem with Mexicans. Mexicans want to have a party every Saturday.
Right.
Mexicans want to have a party every Friday, Saturday night.
Mexicans, every
day. Every day. Mexicans want to have a gang of Mexicans over barbecuing all the goddamn time.
Right.
Like Mexicans, you guys want to have a barbecue every goddamn weekend. Why can't you have a barbecue once a month?
So like, I don't want what that one Uncle Tom say. We want a taco truck in every corner.
We want a taco truck in every corner. That's the problem with Mexicans. Black people, you guys want to, they sit on the porch all goddamn day.
Right.
You know, they sit on the porch all day. They got so many people in the front of their house, man. You know what I'm saying? Why are they always there? Why they always got to do that? That's the way they see. That's a translation that they give us. Those jokes are not our jokes. Those are their jokes. Those are the jokes that they come up with.
Right.
We just laugh at the goddamn stupid things they're saying, and we take it as damn. You know what? What the hell, bro? You know. And then we follow through with their jokes by saying that's the kind of jokes that they make about us. I say it at camp, right? They laugh at the things we talk about.
Right.
When they walk by and I'm speaking, they have a smile on their face. They're nodding their heads. They're laughing at the things that I say. But you know what? They're not laughing at me up there. They're not laughing at me at camp. What they're laughing at is at the atrocities that we black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians went through.
Right.
To them, our atrocities, the things we went through, to them is a joke. To them, that's what they're smiling at. That's what they're laughing at. They're not laughing because what I'm saying sounds funny. They're laughing because what they did is funny. Right. You know what I'm saying?
What is it? The pride of their heart has deceived
them. The pride of their hearts have deceived them. Right. Absolutely. So we're not. You know, when I'm speaking, it's not me they're criticizing. It's not me they're coming against. They're coming against our history. They're coming against the atrocities that happen to our people. That's what it really is. But today in this class, we found out that us Hispanics, Central American people, man, we're the children of Israel.
Right.
We are of the 12 tribes of Israel. We knew our Bible before the Spaniard bring their lies.
Right.
Before they showed us that white Virgin Mary, before they showed us that white Jesus Christ, before they showed us any of that, we already knew the Bible. So when someone comes and tells you, hey man, you know what? The white man gave you that Bible. You know, they gave you that Bible. You're reading the white man's book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what they tell us. You know, now you know that when you read the history, especially books like what I'm talking about, the Popol Vuh, then you understand that the answer to that question is that us Hispanic people, we knew the Bible way before they bring it to us. The Native American Indian knew their Bible way before they bring it to them.
Right.
That's why, like I said at the beginning, right, when we were reading Discoveries of Ancient America, right, and I showed you the Bat Creek stone, right, when I showed you the hidden mountain, the sacred mountain, when I showed you this right here, and the inscriptions on these mountains, right, you can see those. In New Mexico, these are written in Hebrew. And these are ancient artifacts found in Arizona, in New Mexico, in I believe all the way up to Montana, places like that.
Yeah.
You know, our people knew who we were. We knew our language. We knew who we were. We knew exactly what we were about. You know what I mean? And now we understand that we can show the world that we're the true lost tribes of the house of Israel.
So like, I wonder if I could add real quick, sir, because you know earlier you mentioned the conquistadors coming over here, right?
Can.
If there's one scripture that could tie, you know, indigenous people to the Bible, is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48 through 50, where it talks about, you know, the Lord sending a nation from afar, from the other end of the earth, whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce continents, as swift as the eagle.
Right.
What was the symbol of Spain? What was this,
right.
The symbol of America.
The symbol of Rome.
And this Kukulkan, right?
The Hitler.
Right.
You know?
The eagle.
Absolutely. The eagle. Absolutely.
So, I mean, you know, so if you want an explanation as to how the conquistadors came over here, the Lord warned us that they were going to come over here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then here's another thing, too, that I want to bring out, sir, if I could. You always hear the argument, man, that, you know, the Bible is the white man's book and, you know, don't even dare, our people won't dare pick it up or touch the Bible, right?
Gone.
But what's ironic is that they have no problem picking up, you know, a gun to fight against the oppressor, right?
Right.
What you think they were using back then to fight against our people? What were they killing our people with? Guns. But you have no problem picking up that gun to go fight against the so-called white man, right?
Right.
You have no problem picking up that gun and becoming a zapatista,
right?
You know, a guerrillero, you know, a revolutionary. Well, it's the same thing with the Bible. We're picking up this Bible to fight back against them.
Right, God.
You know what I mean? And that's what may my people wake up. I pray y'all understand that, you know, if you got no issue picking up a gun to fight against the white man, you should have no issue picking up the Bible to fight against the white man.
Absolutely, especially when it's your book.
Right.
Especially when we knew about it way before the conquistadores came and claimed it to be theirs, when we knew about it a long time ago. And let me tell you something. The Most High, the Lord himself, you know, has been able to make this happen by saving our history in a manner that we can now, us, man, think about it. This has been hidden truth for over 500 years. And now all of us here today are living in the era where we're the first ones to expose this truth.
Right.
We have been, man, not only did Commanding General Yohanna wake us up at this appropriate time to do this, But the Lord has saved all this history for the Latino people that we might be the ones to expose it in our time.
Right.
Man, what a privilege for us to be doing that. What an honor. Man, that's an honor to save for 500 years this history that the brothers in the ISUPK, all of us, can come out here and say this.
Right.
I feel honored, man, that today I was able to grab these books and share this time with Malakma and Kasharwan and Ashkawar and everybody on this thread, Ayar and everybody, and that all of us could today sit here and see the magnitude of the power of the Lord, where He has chosen us to bring this truth forth.
Right.
And has chosen us to do it. Man, what an honor. The Lord, the Most High, has chosen us to expose this to our people. Because this class here is seldom seen. You know, you don't see it. You don't get to see these classes.
Right.
But yet here in the ISUPK, man, the Lord has chosen us, has appointed us as priests and prophets to show this truth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Has appointed us to show this truth, and has appointed everybody on this thread to experience it, to be part of it, to understand it. You know what I mean? And to be able to learn from this and share it, because that's what's important. It's not me just teaching it, but it's all the brothers hearing it. That, you know what, your next class, you can be like, hey, did you know about the Mayans? Your next speaking out on the streets of America, when you see a Hispanic brother, you remember this and you can tell them, hey, you know, hey, Salvadoranian man, so-called Salvadoranian man, did you know that your book, the Popol Vuh, knew about the Bible before they did?
Right.
Where you could tell an Issacharite brother, where you could tell a Zebulon brother, a brother from Honduras, Guatemala, a Belize brother, a brother from Belize, where you can tell this brother, oye hermano, did you know that your people knew about the Bible before the Spaniards got here? You can tell them, did you know it's written in your histories, in the ancient language of your people? And you know what? That blows them away. They'll be like, if one of my Judite brothers, one of my black brothers say that, the expression on the face of a Zebulonite brother is going to be like, man, how do you know that and I don't? How the hell do you know this history and I don't know my own history? But that's what we're here for. We're here to share this information, to teach each other. I've learned a lot from watching General Mahaiman's classes, from watching Captain Tazariak's classes, from watching my brother's classes all the time. I learned a lot from watching their classes. And likewise, you know, my brothers learned from me. Because this class, The Inconvenient Truth, you know I'm going to bring out that Latin American history. You know I'm going to bring out that Chicano history. You know I'm going to bring out that Mexican history. You know I got pride in my people. You know I got pride in my culture. You know that my one goal is to raise my people up. And the sad part is my people don't want to be raised up. But damn, my people, we going to raise you up anyways at all costs.
So like, what is it? Prophet, what is it? Speaking to us smooth things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Malagma's right. That's a precept in the Bible. Speak to us smooth things. You know what I mean? They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear lies. Man, we're a little bit over time. I want to thank everybody for joining us and staying on. We went over a little bit, but Most High in Christ for everybody who jumped on, man. Remember those books that I put up? Watch the class from the beginning. You know, David Allen Deal and the book, The Nexus, a great book to have. I showed it last night in my Spanish class. I.S.U.P.K. en Español every Tuesday, actually every day of the week.
Conquest.
When do you got a class there, Malagma? Go ahead and let them know.
I got my class on Friday, so you know, tune in 9 p.m. Friday.
9 p.m. on Fridays.
Try to make it a late night show.
Absolutely. Hey, those are the best ones.
Yeah,
ISUPK on Fridays. ISUPK Mexico, you know what I'm saying? Straight out of Rio Grande Valley, you know, with Yashakar Ban Yashakar, you know, Most High in Christ for that brother and putting those classes through. But we out there, and you could always log on and watch those classes. You know, Ayar, I'm pretty sure one day and real soon you're gonna start watching his classes up there too. We got Kasharwan's class. What is your Kashar?
Sundays.
Kasharwan's got the Sunday class. Don't forget to tune into Sunday class. All these are classes in Spanish and Espanol. So if you got a loved one, man, let me tell you something. One of the problems we got is that, you know, we're trying to explain to our loved ones, our Mexicanos, Barraza, to our parents who are hardcore Christians, hardcore Catholics. And we're trying to explain to them, and they don't hear us. But you could always invite them. Come on, man, let's sit down. Let's watch this class for a second. And then when they say, es un mentiroso, okay, well, let's put it up there. Eres un mentiroso, Kasharwan. You know, you lying. You know, put them to the test. I say that, put us to the test. You know, I'm glad that you have family that hates on us. Well, bring them on. Bring on the hate. And then let us explain to you. Let us break it down biblically so that they can, and then tell your mom or your brother or your dad or your homie, hey, bring your Bible. And then tell them, okay, take it to Joshua 1:6, and they'll be like, who? Because they don't know their Bible. You know what I'm saying? But right here, we're going to teach you the Bible. Man, I want to thank everybody for joining us. The water, once again, for logging in and staying with us. The Inconvenient Truth is always, man, every Wednesday, I.S.U.P.K. California. Don't forget, we got a High Holy Day coming up. Don't forget, we also got the cookout, I.S.U.P.K. California cookout next week, Las Vegas, November 11th through the 14th. We're going to be at Paradise Park. All you got to do is hit us up, man. Hit us up on the messenger. Hit us up on ISUPK.com. Hit us up, I.S.U.P.K. California, for where to go, how to get there, free food, free drink. We're going to be partying all night long, 3 days. Man, we're looking forward to it. Do all you can to be there, man. It's just brotherhood. Never forget, man. Never forget. Brotherhood comes first before everything else. The water for watching. Till next week, till next Wednesday, Lord be with you all week. Shalom, Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai, Barakatah.